Welcome back to the Coruscant podcast. I'm Cooper, this is Jack. Today we are doing a general discussion on some Star Wars questions that we have prepared.
Yes.
And we don't really know what to expect, but we're going to get straight into it. So Jack, do you want to do the first one?
Oh, okay, all right. So I hope it's nothing too scary for the first one to discuss, but I think we got one here. It is, here we go. What would be your number one hope for Battlefront 3?
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, so...
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go first or...
I'll go first.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So if Battlefront 3 ever occurred, I would hope that they add every character from the movie side, like every film. I would also want Clone Wars characters, iconic ones, like not just Common Trevor or something, even though it's before the Clone Wars. But I would love to see more dynamic map kind of, like weather conditions during the gameplay. So it's kind of like different while you're playing it, not just the same thing every time. So experience something different every time. I would also like different game modes. I wouldn't, you know how like, is it, I haven't played it for is it Supremacy, Battlefront 2, which is the one where you start from like one point, Galactic Assault. You start from like the ground and then there's a cutscene and it goes into the ship.
Oh, no, that's Supremacy.
Supremacy, yeah. And how cool would that be if once you get through that first kind of barricade, then you actually have to fly your ships up and then there's like a battle like in the space and then...
like a multi-level...
Yeah, kind of...
Cool. That would be very cool.
Yeah, and also, this is one of the most important things too, is a really, really good campaign, which can maybe be played from both sides of the story, so you get a different outcome if you play it two times. You know what I mean? It's like you get the villain side and then you get the good, like the hero side. I think overall, I would just like the same sort of mechanics. Obviously, keep to what's already working, but improve on it.
So, what would be the number one out of all of your ones that you just suggested?
I would definitely want dynamic map changes during the gameplay. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
As for me, I think I'd probably go with introducing, like you said, lesser not lesser known characters, but more like characters like Cal Kestis and even like some of the Inquisitor characters.
Yep.
I feel would be very good because it would show how dynamic and almost like it'd be like a platform for all different sort of gamers. Like what Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is, where it just has all these different crossover. It's got the High Republic, the Old Republic.
Yeah.
I think that having these sort of characters come in would really just make the game feel so immersive.
Yeah.
And obviously, I feel like you can't have the characters without the maps that they are known for.
Yeah.
But I just feel like more character selection. I'd probably say that was my number one. More bigger character selection would be better.
Well, would you then say that, like, for example, if you had the Inquisitors, you have to have a map of the Inquisitor base? Of the
absolutely.
Inquisitorium?
The Fortress Inquisitorium. I can't remember what it is.
But that triangle pyramid structure thing, that'd be sick.
That would be cool. Yeah. Anyway, so I think we hope Battlefront 3 goes ahead.
Yeah, hopefully, but optimistic.
Not looking too great at the moment.
Yeah.
All right, shall we get into number 2?
100%.
Not looking. This one. Oh. This one's kind of funny. Has the criminal underworld of Star Wars been done justice in live action / animation projects so far?
Take the reign.
No, and we're having a discussion about this earlier because I've been doing some digging into Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
And I feel like that story still has so much to be told. But alongside that, you've got 4 other massive crime syndicates: the Pikes, the Hutt cartel. You've got the Knight Brother clan as well, and then there's a couple of other corporations. Probably we don't need to learn about them, but I think just in terms of getting more of that side, obviously I think Star Wars Outlaws is maybe going to explore some of that. But yeah, I would love to see more of the Star Wars underworld. We got a bit of it in Clone Wars, which was good, and Maul's kind of rise to power there. But besides that and Solo, we haven't really got a lot. So I'd love to see more. Yeah,
for sure. I think we did. This is a painful thing. The Boba Fett show tried to expand on like a mafia-esque story. However, they just didn't do any of the classic traits of a syndicate. You would, assume they had that kind of those table scenes where he had different kind of leaders from different factions, and he was at the head of the table.
Yep.
But they didn't. It was trying to make him like an anti-hero sort of still. Whereas this kind of like, we always hear about how threatening the Hutt clan is with Jabba when he was in charge and stuff. But we never really saw anything like that apart from the start of Return of the Jedi a little bit, where he had like kind of like those slave kind of people. But we never saw the threat that he posed. Like Han always escaped all these crime syndicates, but we never got to see them actually do anything in action, really.
Yeah, we only got mentions of them.
100%. We saw even a few. We saw that one that was after the old Han in Force Awakens. Even those weird guys.
Oh, yeah,
when he got sandwiched between them.
I don't know if they were criminal syndicates, but I don't know.
There was some sort of...
Well, I remember one of them was called Kanji Club.
The Kanji Club, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I just think Star Wars... We've explored so much of like the franchise already, but we haven't even really had I wouldn't say like a Sith orientated story, but like just a criminal underworld storytelling, you know what I mean? Like even like an Andor-esque style where it's a bit more serious tone, like a proper mafia story, like a Sopranos, but Star Wars would be so cool to see. And I think that would expand kind of the universe from what we already know to see more of the dirtier, scarier kind of systems. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Yep. No. So in terms of it being done justice so far, no.
I think that's the one we can both agree on 100%.
Absolutely. All right. Next one.
Here we go. Ooh, a small one. This is my one. Oh, this is a good one. Which is better, Rey as a nobody or Rey as a Palpatine? So this one explores, so I'll go first. This one explores do you prefer the story that she had supposedly in The Last Jedi, or do you prefer that 2-week created thing before shooting of her being a Palpatine? For myself, I would say at first I would have sided with her being a nobody, because I was like, I don't like how they have to link everyone to like a... However, the way that in episode 9, I would prefer her to be a Palpatine due to how immensely powerful she is. I think that makes more sense rather than her. Imagine her using these Force lightning abilities and stuff, like the same thing that happened, but not being related to the Palpatine.
Yep.
Where would she get this from? And it kind of explains how even she hasn't trained that much, but she's very powerful. Luke trained a little bit on Dagobah, right? And this is the thing that sometimes I think Star Wars fans forget. He didn't show that much training aside from that Dagobah bit, right? Yeah. But he's a descendant of Vader. He's a Skywalker, right?
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Explains that. So I think the way that they actually ended up doing that made more sense for her being a Palpatine. I don't want to say that I prefer that out of all other outcomes. My little take in here, I would have preferred if she was like a descendant of a hero, but using power. Like, for example, let's just say she was an Obi-Wan, secret daughter he never knew about, but she's using all these other Force abilities. Kind of, she's not sure if she wants to be a good character or a villain kind of thing. Yeah. But I definitely prefer her being a Palpatine than a nobody, I think, now. Okay. Which is interesting, yeah.
So, obviously, The Rise of Skywalker, I think I mentioned this plenty of times on the podcast. It's grown on me, obviously. I still can't get over the Rey Palpatine. Yeah. Oh, not the Rey, but somehow Palpatine's return. Yep. I do believe that they did intend to bring him back, but they just didn't go about it in the right way. In terms of Rey being a descendant of Palpatine, I don't really think it makes sense. I feel like if Sheev was to get in the bed, it would be not when he was hideously disfigured. Yeah, it'd be more like a Force manipulation. Not against like shriveled prunes. But just... would he even have that trust to go make love with someone? Yeah. Anyway, that's beside the point. That is beside the point. So, my main thing with Rey Palpatine is I think it's showed throughout the film, and even like it does explain her Force ability as well. And obviously in Rise of Skywalker we get the Force lightning and everything. So yes, it makes sense. But as a nobody, I feel like because in Star Wars we've been following the Skywalker lineage for so long, I really feel like it would have had to have gone a separate route, the sequel trilogy, to keep the Skywalker going through. You can't call it the Skywalker saga and have the sequel trilogy just not be about a Skywalker.
100%.
Especially in the way we got it. Luke was he was in it for one movie pretty much. Anyway, I would have preferred if Rey was a nobody in a different
sense,
like if it was a different story told. Yeah. But to explain the powers, I think Palpatine. But
would you go to an extent of saying you'd prefer if she was a lineage from, like, another Skywalker, like saying Leia hadn't, like, she was related to Kylo secretly and they didn't know, and then that whole loving thing didn't ever happen in Rise of Skywalker, because in Force Awakens and Last Jedi we don't get much, love connection, right?
I would say The Last Jedi we do, but yeah.
Well, a little bit, but like, tension, I guess.
Yeah,
that even happened weirdly in the original trilogy with Luke and Leia before they realized, right? So imagine that, right? In the third one, it comes to fruition that she's actually also a descendant of Vader, and now Kylo's struggling kind of to deal with. He's not the only one. She might be the heir to the throne of Vader, and he has to take her out. Kind of. Oh, that'd be cool. Ooh.
That would be cool. That would be very cool.
Yeah. Interesting.
But in terms of which one I prefer, I think for the story, I would prefer it if Rey was a nobody.
Yeah.
I think that would just give us a new take on
perspective,
Star Wars,
kind of, yeah.
And that the Force doesn't have to
always be these two only people.
It would be, this is different, and obviously I know the story would have to change for it to make sense. But I think I prefer the idea of Rey being a nobody, and that's the kind of the identity she claims from the beginning, which I really like.
Yeah,
so be proud of that identity.
You don't have to
that you're from nothing.
Yep.
And make your own story.
100%. Yep, that's good. Yeah.
All right, next one. Oh, I think it's one of yours.
Is it? Oh, well, my handwriting's horrendous. you have to.
This is not worded very well, but I'm going to just read it for what it is.
Do you want me to read it for you?
Disney been a good thing for Star Wars? Has Disney been a good thing for Star Wars? Yes. I'm going to say yes. Now, not just because of the sequel trilogy and I like it, but I think we've gotten a lot of content. And obviously, we've had the discussion about quality over quantity. I think that you can still get quality within quantity, like with Andor. And I think that we've gotten, even though some projects... I go back to Obi-Wan Kenobi show quite a lot. It's a terrible show. It's not good. But it has some really awesome moments that just make it stand out. I think the whole of Episode 3 with Vader kind of terrorizing the town, and then everything...
Even the flashbacks were pretty cool.
Yeah, the flashbacks were good. I reckon episode 5 and 6 were really well done and had some really great moments that it kind of makes the whole show worth it. I think if the story was playing better from the beginning... Anyway, this is an Obi-Wan review.
Yeah.
Has Disney been a good thing for Star Wars? Yes, because it's broadened the galaxy. It's given us stories for characters that we thought we'd never get before. It's given us brand new characters, and I feel like if it remained in George Lucas's hands, he'd be very specific, and he would be tailoring to people like Star Wars Theory, who are so specific about what they like, and it just doesn't take into account the broader audience.
Interesting. Okay. I would like to mention, whilst creating that one, I actually thought you were gonna say Disney is a good thing, obviously, like what you said. But I was going to shock you, and actually I was going to agree with you, because I wouldn't say to the extent of you saying how if George Lucas had it, it would be catered. I don't think so. We all have to remember that he was the original creator, right?
Yeah.
So I would have actually... So it depends. If he decided, I'm going to wait another 15 years to make another Star Wars thing, right? And then he does another trilogy, right? Similar to how Disney began, like, had a lot of time off, obviously, before it got sold and everything, and then the new trilogy came. I would like to see that happen from George's standpoint, but we're talking about Disney here. So for Disney, I'll say yes, it's been a good thing to an extent. So this is where the little thing is. To an extent, they have done a much worse ratio, in my opinion, of good actual Star Wars content than how much they've actually made.
I'd agree with that.
So this is where it gets a bit convoluted. I think it has been good overall, though, because we've been getting Star Wars content. We all love Star Wars. And back in the OT and even prequel era, there really wasn't much. Like, you got the Clone Wars as like a thing, as an extension.
Link. Yeah.
But we haven't really... But in this kind of Disney era period, we've got so much to talk about. Yeah. Even if we don't like it, we've all discussed it. Like, how much have we talked about the sequel trilogy, guys?
Yeah,
like, it's been in our lives for so long now already.
Almost 10 years.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm like, I think it's been a good thing. But I think the way that they're trying to do now, I'm hoping after all the bad reception from Obi-Wan and the good reception from Andor and everything, that they start to realize that you don't need to put out so much content, just make it good.
Yeah.
Right? So I think they are hopefully starting to shift those gears. But so far, I can't complain still. I've got to see so many things that I would have never really thought of back then. And we still have more to come out, obviously, this year and next year. So it's good to an extent.
I'll just add, I think that what Disney's done really well is that they've bridged the gap between the eras or the trilogies. Like, we've gotten so much content that's been between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and also Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. In my opinion, great, because each project is exploring different parts, either progressing a character like Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith to the point in A New Hope, or it's exploring the political aspects, like in Mandalorian Season 3.
There's that
as
kind of...
crap as it was, it at least got the ball rolling about how there's such corruption within the New Republic already. Even in Ahsoka, we got that as well. That, you know, you didn't... Hera saying, or I think it was Hera said, how do you expect a republic to build overnight? Or I can't remember who it was who said that.
I'm pretty sure,
But it's like, like there's corruption in there. So it's good to see, and that obviously leads to the fall of the New Republic. So it's good to see how each project is tailored to a specific thing. Bad Batch, how did the clones get phased out? So that's what I really like in what Disney's done. It's bridged the gaps, and it's made it more of a linear storytelling.
Even though if they're not all perfectly in their own sense, but I do 100% agree with you. They've given us much more detail between the periods, and that's what we love. All the books are in between the periods, and now we're just getting them in TV show format. They just need to be good. They just need to be good.
They do need to be good, yeah.
So exactly. 100%. Disney, good thing.
Did I pick last? I think I did. So
I think you did, yeah.
Next one. Woo!
Have I got one? Yep, got one. Oh, nice. Oh, this is good. So... to the people listening today, we talked about making a hot take each, right, for this thing. Okay, But I've put a hot take here, and I really want to see Cooper's opinion on this, because I'm very strong in this hot take, and this is my take, obviously. Kylo Ren is more interesting than Vader, only comparing the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy as the factors.
Do you want me to go first?
I would like to go first, probably, for this one.
Yeah.
I actually agree. I think... honestly, I didn't even think about it till now. Original trilogy Vader, this is going to get a lot of backlash.
He's boring.
He doesn't do much. He just walks in there and just kind of stands behind those Imperial figures. The only time he actually had really good development or really fear, I was scared of him, was in Empire. A New Hope, I was like, who's this weirdo in a helmet? He doesn't speak much. He's always behind someone. He's just lingering. Empire, you figure out he's, father of Luke, he cuts off Luke's hand, and then in return, he kind of is just the beta for the entire movie to Palpatine, and then saves the day at the end, but then dies.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Kylo's more interesting. I'm not saying better character, I'm just saying more interesting, right? I think in terms of this, comparing the three movies side by side, in episode 7, you figure out that he's the descendant of, obviously, Vader, I don't know, it's a bit contradicting. He's Han and Princess Leia's kid, two very important people within the Rebel Alliance and Resistance now. He also, you can see that he's battling conflict already, even though he starts out being this fearful, opposing Sith kind of thing. He looks more scarier. I think his appearance is far more frightening than Vader's external appearance, especially with the voice, apart from when he takes off the helmet, of course.
Yeah.
But I think he's a lot more, because he's mysterious. Right? He's mysterious, but he's also doing stuff. In that first opening scene, Vader walks in A New Hope through the doors and just does this. Opening scene with Kylo Ren. He slaughters a whole village and stops up a whole laser bolt without even trying, basically, right? Then he kills his father and he shows grief, but then also still pursues his, aspirations of being a Sith. And then in The Last Jedi, he's starting to crumble a bit. He's showing his psychological struggles within his own mind kind of thing. But then he goes, no, I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to take out everyone. It's going to be my reign only, and trying to get Rey on his side. And then in Rise of Skywalker, he's really cemented that supreme leader that no one's going to kind of take him over. But then the only thing that brings him back into the light is his connection to his mother. And that sort of mother and son bond. And it shows that, just like everyone in this world, no one's fully kind of evil. Everyone deserves a second chance kind of thing. So I actually preferred... I thought he's a lot more interesting than... Vader doesn't really do much in the OT. I think he's developed well throughout the whole Star Wars media, books, prequel trilogy, Clone Wars. Obviously with Anakin... He even got so much development in those shows. If you're just comparing the three movies to those three movies... I think Kylo Ren's a more interesting character.
Did you prepare this in advance?
So to you guys in the audience, we kind of discussed about this, doing it recently, but I actually, only the other night, I thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute. someone mentioned that, oh, I think Kylo Ren is much cooler than Vader. And then I was like, in my head, holy crap, how? I actually think he's a lot more interesting. Because I always thought about this. Everyone puts Vader on this pedestal, right? As like he's the best villain of all time. In those original trilogy movies, is he really that intimidating, imposing?
So...
Or interesting even for that matter. He's very just... There's not much on him.
So I don't disagree with you, first of all. I'm actually struggling to come to a conclusion in my head. I don't
try to remove the fact of the everything else that you know about Vader kind of thing. Yeah.
So first of all, I love Kylo Ren. He's one of my favorite. You and I both love Kylo Ren. He's a great character.
Yeah.
My issue is he's got good development, but it almost feels like he can't really make up his mind in my head.
But I think that's good because of the psychological struggles that he deals with. It gives him more depth rather than, I think, when Vader's just such a faceless figure without any really motives until like the end of the trilogy.
I don't know. I feel like Kylo doesn't really know what he wants and he kind of makes it up on the spot as he's going, like whatever benefits him in the moment. But I guess like, yeah, I do think he's the more interesting character.
Really?
I think he is the more interesting character. I think Vader, you can't talk about Vader without Anakin, but the question was within the original trilogy. So I feel like that's almost a bit unfair, actually, because you're comparing like a whole character's story development to half a character's story development.
But if you think about this, we haven't really had, if you're talking about the movies, we haven't had anything else with Kylo Ren. There's so many periods that we missed out on his, upbringing of being a good person to begin with too. But also, you say that right, but like initially, there wasn't meant to be a prequel trilogy, right? It was almost just meant to be, here's Vader, he's a villain. They weren't going to really go with, oh, he's Anakin. He had an Ahsoka apprentice and he had a best friend called Obi-Wan kind of thing. He just said he knew him, right? Yeah. So when you think of it like that, it's almost like he needed so much other media to become the character that we all know and love today. When Kylo Ren, I feel, has done more interesting things and is a more interesting character with just within those 3 movies alone.
Again, I don't disagree with you, but I just think in terms of what Vader brings, I feel like you almost don't need to have that development. I feel like a lot of Vader's development hinges on, no, I'm your father.
Yeah.
Because that just introduces a whole new complexity as to what Vader's been doing, what...
His motives, maybe? Because that's when his motives starts to come in. He wants to reconnect with his son. Yep. Was that evident that he wanted to overthrow at that time
I think
Palpatine?
So.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
But in terms of the question, Kylo Ren is a more interesting character in the trilogy they're in.
The trilogy,
but overall, I think Vader's probably a more interesting, complex character.
I 100% agree with you on that, Cooper. That's why I specifically put the OT, because I'm like, imagine if nothing else came out and it was just those 3 movies and the sequel movies.
Yeah.
Unreal. I was like, when you think of it like that, what did Vader do that was interesting, really, apart from like the I am your father and saving Luke at the end and then just dying kind of pathetically, in my opinion. So it's like,
anyway, that's a good discussion topic. Next one.
Yep.
Don't want to look. Pick out this one. Okay, I like this one.
Here we go.
Were the CIS really the bad guys? Now, I wrote this question because I had a discussion with Mark about it the other day. The CIS are the Confederacy of Independent Systems that were joined/united by the idea that the Republic was too powerful.
Yep.
The Republic held too much power over the galaxy, and that
they need to be a force against them. Yeah.
You look at how the Republic was run. It was run by a chancellor who turned out to be evil and corrupt, and had the entire bidding of the courts, the Senate,
even the Jedi. And the Jedi. Yep.
He's got so much political power over all 3 of those things. And obviously, it's difficult for the CIS. Like, obviously, Palpatine knew what he was doing in orchestrating the war because he even had Dooku running the CIS. But when you think about it, the CIS are just, they're like the rebels almost. They just want to be free of the oppression of the Empire. But it's just that they actually... Well, they don't actually fight back because the rebels did that as well. But they got an army together of droids that did the work. And obviously, we look at Star Wars from a hero's perspective.
They make them look very weak.
We look at from the Jedi's perspective in the prequel trilogy, and so it's very difficult to see the CIS as
the goodies,
as not the bad guys. So that's why I brought up the question, because I'm like, if you really think about it, and that's why I think that they're not really bad. They're just like the Rebel Alliance. They're trying to fight the oppression of the major political power in the galaxy. So, again, I feel like you might be differing, and obviously, the CIS go about it in different ways than the Rebels do.
Yeah, I think you're about to.
But the Rebels, you can, again, we talk about this all the time. Is the blowing up the Death Star terrorism? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Grievous.
Yep.
When he goes and infiltrates the Coruscant temple, takes the Palpatine.
Same thing. Yeah.
That's terrorism. That's holding a leader hostage for personal gain. So
everyone's
similar tactics,
done bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I want to hear what you say, because I think no, they're not really. They're just like the Rebel Alliance.
This is interesting, because you can say that blowing up the Death Star is an act of violence, right? However, the Empire weren't trying to use that machine as kind of a just-in-case security measure for, like, they were doing it to deliberately kill people.
Yeah.
Right? When even if the Chancellor wasn't bad, they took the Chancellor as a hostage, right? But, like, it's like, what for? What are you gaining from this? Like, if you're not thinking about all the...
Well, again, it was Palpatine who orchestrated it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's hard to, like, you know what I mean? So comparing those two, I think, are very vastly different. Like,
yeah, no, it is. And, like, you even think about... Sorry, I'll let you go. But it's like, with the CIS, and it's just so difficult to compare them
when they're being puppeteered kind of by...
They are, and it's difficult to look at from perspectives, because obviously if you look at it from the Republic's perspective, we've kept peace throughout the galaxy, and then these guys are just trying to avoid it. The Empire, same thing. We're just trying to keep peace. We're trying to keep people under control with this Death Star. But the Rebels are like, no, this is not freedom. Anyway, sorry, so you go on.
But I think, as I was going with that kind of thing, I think the main issue is that the CIS just do, like, really bad stuff when they hold power over, like let's just say they took out the Republic's hostage over a system, right? If you're looking at it from their eyes. But then they just basically do the exact same thing and maybe even oppress the people more. So I'm like, if they were the rebels, you wouldn't be oppressing people still. You know what I mean? The rebels would only oppress people or, like, capture people if they're trying to visibly start violence, right? But the CIS were almost just like, well, these guys are holding too much power. We just kind of want that power.
Yeah,
they didn't really think about, like, if you're seeing them as the goodies, what was their overall motive? Their overall motive honestly just seems like just taking over their power.
Yeah.
That's not, like, the rebels were to stop an oppressing force on the whole galaxy. You might not have to agree with how they enact that after, which is obviously what they kind of do with the New Republic in, like, what are they really doing? Like, are they actually that good? You know?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But that's what I'm trying to say. I wouldn't, everyone is not perfect, right? Yeah. Everyone has their faults. Correct. However, I would not go anywhere close to saying that they are the goodies and they did nothing wrong, because I think that honestly they did so much worse than what the Republic would do.
Are they not the bad guys?
I would say they are the bad guys.
Okay, all right.
Because if you remove them from the story, there would be still obviously some people not agreeing with the Republic stealing and not agreeing with the oppression that they're giving. But I think it's less violent and harmful means compared to what the CIS would do. And starting those wars created more conflict within the galaxy. Remove them out of it, there'd be less wars. Everyone, like, even in modern society, everyone's got against political anything, right? Everyone's different. But I think the CIS just brought more war instead of... And if they want to come in and kind of talk politically as a political figures like Newt Gunray and all them, when it came with an actual thing being like, to the people of the Senate and stuff, we come as a proposition to kind of dethrone these guys politically rather than an act of violence and try and remove some of their powers within the system rather than just trying to blow up or capture or kidnap people and just be the exact same, just worse.
Yeah, okay.
So,
fair enough.
Yeah, that's my opinion, yeah.
All right.
Go again.
Do you want to do a couple more? Or
should we do one more, last one?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Wait, no, hang on. Didn't you pick?
You picked your CIS one.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I actually forgot about that.
Let's pick this middle boy. Okay. All right, get off there. All right. Oh, this is Cooper's one because his handwriting's actually good. Who is the most talented actor / actress? I think they're all actors now in all of Star Wars. This is a good one to end off on. Not as dark and depressing as
no, it's the CIS bad.
As the CIS one. Honestly, I would say the most talented Ewan McGregor.
Okay.
So I'll explain myself. This is a disclaimer. I love so many actors within Star Wars and actresses, or they're all actors, I guess, now because it's under the umbrella of everything. But I think Ewan had to demonstrate almost more emotion than even Anakin, like Hayden Christensen, because he was the one that dealt with so much kind of loss, so much change, so much conflict in himself. Like he has to ask his own apprentice and all that kind of like to spy on the Chancellor and everything. And we also, I'm counting Ewan as kind of like, he is, if he wasn't a good actor, then you wouldn't have really cared about that whole Anakin and Obi-Wan scene. You wouldn't care about Obi-Wan kind of having these nightmares of Anakin turning evil. You wouldn't care about his character. Do I care about Obi-Wan? I do. I feel almost so bad, so much worse for Obi-Wan's character because of everything he had to endure, even the Clone Wars stuff. And I think Ewan portrays that perfectly. And especially in Obi-Wan, even if we don't agree with the show, I think he's the perfect Obi-Wan. I think he gives credit to Alec Guinness's version of Obi-Wan.
Absolutely.
And he also has his own spin. And I just think in general, he's a really good actor. And we've obviously seen him in a lot of other projects after. So obviously a lot of other people agree that he's also very talented. Even bit of a sidetrack. He's also very good in the Birds of Prey movie, playing a bit of a crazy kind of Joker type of the Black Mask. I think he's got range. And I really would like to see more of Ewan in live action Clone Wars, I hope, to give, just flesh out his live action persona more too. But there are so many, I could think of so many. So that's a tough one, that one comes with many parts because there's so many good ones and there is so many interesting ones too.
I think you're probably going to agree with what I'm going to say. So first of all, I'm tossing up between two, but I think I'm going to go with the one I'm going to mention in a sec.
You can honorable mention.
Natalie Portman as Padme.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, as Padme, she gets some cheesy lines. We know that.
Well,
I think her acting's pretty good in Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, in terms of what she's gone on to do, I think Black Swan was probably her best movie. She's just been really good. And obviously, people remember her as well as Jane Foster. And as much as the Thor movies were maybe a bit of a joke, I still think she was a pretty good actress in that, or actor. But overall, very talented.
Yeah, 100%.
She's kind of been across the board. But the actor I'm going with is Oscar Isaac. You got to think, outside of Star Wars.
We're talking about in Star Wars, though, also, like, I know you're going to defend him after, but out of 100%, yeah. In
Star Wars, I think sometimes he yells into oblivion, like, it doesn't really... Well, it doesn't really matter what he says. He just kind of yells, like, no, like when Finn says, Ray!
It's like it's a writing.
It's meaningless. Yeah. But I care. There's one moment, there's two moments actually, both in The Rise of Skywalker. The first moment is when he's on the rooftop with Kerry Russell, and he's like, we sent out a call at the Battle of Crate and no one came. And just you can see the defeat in his face, and it's like, chills. That's a good actor right there. Yeah. And then there's also the moment at the Battle of Exegol when he's flying. He's like, I'm sorry guys, I thought we could do it. And then you just see him kind of lift when everyone comes in. Anyway, like that's in Star Wars. He's really good. Yeah. I love that he's one of the main characters. I wish he got more time.
That's the issue. I think why I wouldn't put him as, you know what I mean? Yeah.
No, but in terms of talented, outside of Star Wars, he's phenomenal. What did I watch him in recently?
Drive.
I didn't watch him in Drive.
Is he good in Drive too?
Scenes from a Marriage, I think. That was
Scenes from a Marriage? I've never heard of that.
It's on Binge.
Oh, I've never heard of it. Oh.
He was very good. He was very good in that. And he was in Moon Knight. We're big Marvel fans. So
very good at Moon Knight.
He was very good at Moon
very
Knight.
good at playing that persona,
He's in the Dune series.
Yep,
I thought he played Leto very well.
Yeah.
And he's in a lot more stuff.
He's in so many... he's in a Netflix movie with Ben Affleck.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just kind of like an army movie. He just plays... Every role he plays brings kind of like an impression on the audience.
Yes.
Like you remember his character, you might not remember his name, but you just know his face and be like, yeah, he's good, right?
Yeah, I think he's a very talented actor, and that's why I put him as number one.
100%.
I was thinking Natalie Portman, obviously, but I just
she needs more live action screen time.
And also, I didn't feel like what she was given was enough for her to
in Star Wars,
really make an impact.
100%.
Whereas I feel like Oscar Isaac, although he wasn't the main focus, he was still
impactful
with what he got, and he got more story than what Padme got.
I would like to mention before we wrap up on this actor one and the whole thing, Adam Driver.
Yes, of course.
Unreal.
Yep.
I would even say Ian McDermott.
Yep.
Palpatine. Scary as.
Yep.
So scary. Hayden Christensen. Now I want to say he is, because I feel like we don't want to get into the whole everything that happened with Hayden Christensen and stuff too, but I feel like for what he was given and the direction and the lines he was given, he executed it perfectly. And whether you like him as an actor or not, he is Anakin Skywalker. You know what I mean? He is the I couldn't picture anyone else play him. Leonardo DiCaprio? No. You know what I mean? It is Hayden Christensen. And I think there is a movie called Jumper. Not Looper. Jumper. I'm pretty sure it is. Is it? Maybe.
I haven't seen that movie.
I forget. He's the one where he can teleport, and he's a bit of a goody anti-hero kind of. Yeah. Anyway, he has been in so many movies, right, that you won't hear of, and he's very good, but he needs some more. And I wish he was in more, because I feel like after that whole debacle with Attack of the Clones, mainly in Attack of the Clones, with that really cheesy romantic dialogue, I'm sorry, but George Lucas needs to be the blame for that. Who can say that? We say those lines, right? And you can't say it with a straight face. No, you can't. It's just impossible. So I feel like he needs to be up. May not be the best, obviously, in the franchise. May not be the best of all time, anyway. You know what I mean? But he definitely needs to be recognized, as he did his role perfectly.
Absolutely.
And anyone who thinks of Anakin thinks of him. You know what I mean? And in Revenge of the Sith, he was so good.
That's what I always imagine when I think of Hayden Christensen. I think
in
of
that
Revenge
outfit,
of the Sith, rather than Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, and even in the Ahsoka flashback, you could just see that he was that joking kind of Matt Lanter in the Clone Wars animation, and I'm just like, man, we really missed out on not having more of him in it too. Yeah. I feel like a lot of the Star Wars actors and actresses, or actors in general, just don't get enough screen time to really, really accentuate how good they are. But there is so many good ones in Star Wars, so many, so many that we haven't even mentioned. Again,
I didn't think I didn't think she was great in the movies, but I think Daisy Ridley, she's a great actor.
As well. Really good too. Even Rosario Dawson, even Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon plays that kind of.
You're going forever. Oh my goodness.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many good ones. Even Andy Serkis, not as Snoke, but as what's his name again?
Keno Loy.
Yep.
Supreme Leader Snoke.
And even the mocap of that, scary as. I'm just. It's honestly sad that we don't get to see more of all these kind of characters, and it's just unrealistic to think of. Yeah. That's a great topic, and I love it. It's very good.
I was pretty chuffed with myself.
Yeah, that's very good.
That's going to do.
Yeah. Good indeed.
Anyway, that was going to end on.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.
Catches.